The night my husband changed the locks, I was standing in the rain with a swollen belly and nowhere to go. 8 months pregnant, abandoned by the man who once swore to protect me. My heart broke louder than the thunder. Family betrayal does not come with warning signs. It comes with silence and closed doors. In that moment, I learned how fast love can turn into humiliation and fear. If you're enjoying this, please subscribe and share. Your support keeps the stories coming. I had met Daniel 3 years earlier through a quiet, late-night call that was never meant to last more than 10 minutes. He lived in Ohio, I lived in Oregon, and somehow we talked until sunrise. He listened. He remembered small things. He made me feel chosen. When he flew to see me the first time, he brought a single rose and nervous hands, and I thought I had found a safe man in an unsafe world. The distance did not scare us. We planned calls, visits, and futures. What I did not plan for was his mother, Linda, and the invisible leash she kept wrapped around his life. At first, she sounded sweet. She asked about my job, she complimented my cooking, she called me dear with a smile that never reached her eyes. After we married and I moved across the country, the control became clearer. She had keys to our house. She knew our bank balance. She commented on my clothes, my weight, my tone of voice. Daniel always said she meant well. Family comes first, he would say, and I believed him because I wanted to belong. I worked quietly from home, building a small online consulting business at night while Daniel slept. I never talked about it much. I did not want conflict. Linda already accused me of being too independent, too modern, too ambitious. So I stayed silent and kept growing my work in the background, saving money in an account only my name touched. The pregnancy changed everything. Medical bills piled up. I asked for boundaries, no more unannounced visits, no more comments about how I should raise my child. Linda smiled and nodded, then tightened her grip. The public humiliation came at a family dinner meant to celebrate the baby. Relatives crowded the living room, gifts stacked high. Linda stood, tapped her glass, and laughed before saying she hoped the baby would look like Daniel, unlike some men she knew who raised children that were not theirs. The room went quiet. Eyes turned toward me. My face burned. Daniel did not defend me. He looked down. That was the night Linda decided to destroy me. Days later, Daniel confronted me with printed messages and blurry photos. He said his mother had proof I cheated. I begged him to listen. I asked to see the originals. I asked him to trust me. He did not. His voice was cold, his eyes distant, like I was already gone. While I stayed with my mother for a medical appointment, he packed my things. When I returned, the locks were changed. My phone buzzed with a single message telling me to stay away. I stood there, shaking, holding my stomach as the realization hit me that the man I loved had chosen lies over me, and that his mother was finally smiling somewhere, knowing she had won. Behind that locked door were my clothes, my memories, and the quiet proof of my hidden success. And Daniel had no idea what he had just thrown away. I slept on my mother's couch that night with one hand on my stomach and the other gripping my phone, waiting for it to ring. It never did. Daniel did not call. He did not ask if the baby was moving. He did not ask where I was. By morning, the shock had settled into something heavier. Clarity. I was alone, and I had to stay alive for the child growing inside me. My mother did not ask many questions. She saw my face and understood enough. She made soup, booked my doctor appointment, and quietly moved my things into the spare room. The neighbor across the hall, Mrs. Harper, noticed my swollen ankles and brought over fresh bread without saying a word. Kindness arrived from places I did not expect, while family disappeared without shame. The legal reality hit fast. I was 8 months pregnant, unemployed on paper, and suddenly homeless by marriage standards. Daniel filed for separation within a week. His mother moved quickly too. I received messages accusing me of trapping him, of ruining his life, of chasing his money. I read them without replying. I was too tired to defend myself to people who wanted me silent. Labor came early, in the quiet hours before dawn. My mother drove me to the hospital. Daniel was listed as the emergency contact, but he did not answer. I gave birth alone except for a nurse who held my hand and told me I was strong, even when I did not feel it. When my son cried the first time, something fierce woke up inside me. I promised him a safer world, even if I had to build it from nothing. Daniel never came. He signed the divorce papers by mail. He gave up parental rights without a fight. It was clean, fast, and brutal. His absence hurt, but it also freed me. There was no shared custody, no leverage, no doorway back into my life. What no one knew was that while I rocked my son to sleep at night, I worked. My consulting business had survived quietly through the chaos. Clients stayed, referrals grew. Within a year, I was earning more than Daniel ever had. I paid off medical bills, I moved into a small house near a good school, I kept my last name and my peace. Years passed. My son learned to walk, then run, then ask big questions. He called my husband by his first name at first, then one day called him Dad without realizing how much it meant. Mark never rushed it. He never tried to replace anyone. He just showed up every day, steady and patient. The adoption was finalized on a bright spring morning. I cried in the courthouse hallway, overwhelmed by relief. My son had a father who chose him, legally and willingly. We celebrated quietly with ice cream and laughter. That night, my phone buzzed with a number I did not recognize. The message was short. It said his mother was dead and he needed to see his son. I stared at the screen, my heart racing, knowing the past had just found my address. The first time Daniel showed up at my door, my son was in the backyard laughing, chasing bubbles Mark had blown into the air. I watched that laughter through the window as I opened the door and saw the past standing on my porch, thinner, older, and hollowed out by time and regret. He said my name like it still belonged to him. It did not. He cried. He apologized. He told me his mother had confessed everything before she died. The fake messages, the staged photos, the lies she fed him until he believed betrayal was easier than trust. He said grief had opened his eyes. He said he deserved a second chance. I listened without interrupting, because silence no longer scared me. When I told him no, something in his face changed. He stopped apologizing and started demanding. He said he was the real father. He said Mark was an intruder. He said I had no right to erase him. I closed the door calmly and locked it, my hands steady, my heart clear. The calls started that night, then the emails, then the letters. He parked across the street, watching. Once he followed me to my son's school. That was when fear returned, sharp and familiar. But this time, I did not freeze. I documented everything. I filed reports. I asked for help. Court was different now. I was no longer the woman standing in the rain with nowhere to go. I walked in prepared, supported, and unafraid. The judge saw the history, the abandonment, the signed rights, the adoption papers. The restraining order was granted. When Daniel violated it, he faced consequences he could not talk his way out of. The day he was taken away, my son was at soccer practice. I watched from the sidelines, the sun warm on my face, the sound of cheering parents around me. Life had kept moving while the past tried to drag me backward, and I refused to let it win. We moved shortly after, not out of fear, but out of choice. A new state, a new school, a fresh start without shadows. Mark took a new job. I expanded my business quietly, steadily, never announcing success until it was undeniable. The same people who once mocked me now asked how I did it. I smiled and changed the subject. At night, when the house was quiet, I sometimes thought about the woman I used to be. The one who believed love was proven by endurance. The one who stayed silent to keep peace. I wished I could tell her that survival was not the end of the story. Growth was. My son grew into a confident, kind young man, secure in the knowledge that he was wanted, not claimed, not controlled, chosen. Family, I learned, is not blood or history or guilt. It is action. It is protection. It is showing up when it matters most. I once lost everything because someone believed a lie. I rebuilt my life by choosing truth, boundaries, and courage. And in the end, the greatest revenge was not anger or victory, but peace. The past never fully disappears, but it stops having power when you refuse to let it define you. Daniel's attempts to return had shown me that. The court battles, the threats, the stalking, they tested me, but they also revealed how strong I had become. I was no longer the scared woman in rain-soaked clothes pleading for mercy. I was a mother who knew the value of safety, love, and decisive action. I signed papers for a permanent restraining order. I changed my phone number, my email, even our routines. Mark and I packed up the essentials and moved to a quieter town, one where no one knew our history. My son started school again, this time surrounded by classmates who had no inkling of the family drama that had once haunted us. Slowly, life grew roots again. The business I had built in silence flourished beyond my imagination. Late nights of balancing spreadsheets, answering emails, and pitching clients in whispered determination had paid off. I became financially independent, respected in my field, and finally free from the chains of manipulation and control. People who had once doubted me, laughed at me, or ignored me now sought my advice. I never bragged. I simply lived my quiet triumph. Years later, the house we moved into became a sanctuary. Every corner held laughter, every wall bore witness to a life carefully reconstructed. My son thrived, excelling in school, sports, and friendships, unaware of the storm that had preceded his happiness. Mark never rushed him to replace anyone. He loved him in a way that was patient, steady, and unwavering. That love was real. That love was proof that family is more than DNA. Then, on an ordinary Thursday afternoon, I received a package with no return address. Inside was a photo of Daniel standing at the courthouse years ago, the day he tried to challenge the adoption. A note read, "You cannot run forever. He is mine, too." My stomach dropped. Old fear sparked, but I did not panic. I showed Mark. We called the authorities immediately. He was already on file from previous violations. Legal action was swift and decisive. That night, after my son went to bed, I stood by the window and watched the city lights shimmer. I thought about the journey, the betrayal, the humiliation, the endless nights of uncertainty. I thought about the quiet victories, the unacknowledged effort, the resilience that had carried us through. And I knew, finally, that I had reclaimed everything that mattered: safety, stability, and the kind of love that chooses you willingly every single day. The phone buzzed again, another unknown number, but I did not flinch. I had learned that some ghosts are only dangerous if you give them space to haunt you. I picked up the phone, pressed the button to block it, and walked away. Behind me, my son's laughter echoed through the hall. In that sound, I found everything I had fought for, and more. I turned to Mark, holding his hand, and whispered, "We are home." And in that moment, I understood surviving betrayal was only the beginning. Thriving afterward, quietly, resolutely, and surrounded by people who chose us was the true victory. This is the story of a mother, a survivor, and a woman who refused to let lies define her life. From heartbreak to empowerment, from fear to quiet triumph, we built a family on love, boundaries, and choice. And nothing, not even the ghosts of the past, could take that away.